Shattered trust Olivia Mercer stared at her reflection in the mirror, adjusting the delicate gold necklace James had given her on their first anniversary. 5 years of marriage had weathered them both, though lately things had started to feel normal again. The financial strain that had followed James's layoff 3 years ago had finally eased. His new position at Henderson & Associates had brought stability back into their lives, and Olivia's recent promotion to senior marketing director at Pinnacle Media had sealed their financial recovery. "Tonight will be perfect," she whispered to herself, smoothing down the emerald silk dress she'd splurged on last weekend. Their 7th anniversary deserved something special, and Olivia had planned meticulously. James thought she was working late, completely unaware that she'd arranged to surprise him at his important client meeting at the Grand Meridian Hotel. They would finally have that dinner at Altitudes, the rooftop restaurant they'd always dreamed of visiting, but could never afford during the lean years. The bouquet of white lilies and blue hydrangeas, James's favorites, sat, carefully arranged on the passenger seat as Olivia navigated downtown traffic. She hummed along to the radio, rehearsing her surprise in her mind. She'd walk into the hotel lobby, text him to meet her for an urgent matter, and when he came down expecting a crisis, she'd reveal the dinner reservation. It would be worth it just to see the look on his face. The Grand Meridian stood imposing against the twilight sky, its glass facade reflecting the sunset in shimmering gold. Olivia handed her keys to the valet and straightened her dress one final time before taking a deep breath and stepping through the revolving doors. The lobby stretched before her in marble and crystal, business people and tourists milling about beneath spectacular chandeliers. Olivia clutched the flowers tighter, scanning the space for James's familiar silhouette. According to his calendar, his meeting should be wrapping up in the Indigo conference room about now. Her eyes drifted toward the hotel bar, an elegant space separated from the main lobby by ornate glass panels. And there, in a secluded corner booth, sat James. He wasn't alone. The world seemed to slow as Olivia registered the scene before her. James was leaning in close to a woman with copper hair, his hand resting intimately on hers. The woman laughed at something he said, and then Olivia's breath caught in her throat. James tenderly brushed a strand of hair from the woman's face before leaning in to kiss her. Olivia stood frozen, the bouquet suddenly heavy in her hands. A businesswoman bumped into her, muttering an apology that Olivia barely heard. She couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't process the scene playing out before her. James pulled back from the kiss, saying something that made the woman smile and nod enthusiastically. He reached into his jacket pocket, the jacket Olivia had bought him for his last birthday, and pulled out a small box. When he opened it, even from this distance, Olivia could see the glint of jewelry. A gift, on their anniversary, for another woman. The flowers slipped from Olivia's grasp, scattering across the polished floor. A nearby bellhop glanced at her with concern, but she couldn't find words to respond. With mechanical movements, she reached for her phone, scrolling past James's smiling face on her contacts until she found the number she needed. "Diane Bennett's office," answered a professional voice. "This is Olivia Mercer," she said, her voice unnaturally calm as she turned away from the scene in the bar. "I need to schedule an appointment with Ms. Bennett as soon as possible." "Regarding what matter, Mrs. Mercer?" Olivia watched James through the reflection in a decorative mirror, still oblivious to her presence as he continued his intimate dinner. "Divorce proceedings." As she walked back through the revolving doors, leaving the scattered flowers behind on the marble floor, Olivia felt something crack inside her. 7 years of memories, of struggles and triumphs, of building a life together, all shattered in a single moment of truth. The night air hit her face, cool against the single tear that had escaped. She declined the valet's offer to retrieve her car and instead started walking, with no destination in mind other than away. Away from the hotel, away from James, away from the life she had believed in until 5 minutes ago. Her phone buzzed, a calendar reminder for their dinner reservation in 30 minutes. Olivia switched it off completely and kept walking, each step taking her further from the woman who had entered that hotel with flowers and hope, and closer to whoever she would need to become now. Silent aftermath. The manila folder sat untouched on Olivia's kitchen table for 3 days. Inside were the preliminary divorce papers that Diane Bennett had prepared with surprising efficiency. The cleaner the break, the quicker the healing, Diane had told her during their first meeting, her kind eyes belying her shark-like reputation in family court. Olivia traced the folder's edge with her fingertip, listening to the rain tap against the windows of the apartment she'd rented on the other side of the city. 2 weeks had passed since the Grand Meridian, and she still hadn't told anyone the whole story. Her parents knew only that she and James were taking some space. Her colleagues had accepted her vague explanation about personal matters requiring her to work remotely for a while. Her phone lit up with another message from James, the 15th. "Today, please talk to me. I can explain everything," Olivia almost laughed. Explain what? How he'd been having an affair while she worked overtime to support them during his unemployment. How he'd chosen their anniversary to give another woman a sapphire bracelet. She'd seen it clearly when Diane's investigator had followed them out of the hotel. The doorbell rang, startling her. Through the peephole, she saw her best friend Nadine holding a bottle of wine and what looked like takeout bags. "You can't hide forever," Nadine announced when Olivia opened the door. "And you definitely can't survive on whatever sad groceries you panic bought when you rented this place." Nadine didn't wait for an invitation, bustling past Olivia into the sparsely furnished apartment. Her presence immediately made the sterile space feel warmer, more like somewhere a person might actually live rather than just exist. "Thai food, wine, and absolutely zero pressure to tell me anything you don't want to," Nadine said, unpacking containers on the counter. "But I'm staying until you eat something that isn't cereal." Olivia felt something loosen in her chest, the first hint of relief since that night. "Have I told you lately that you're the best friend in the universe?" "Not nearly enough," Nadine grinned, handing her a glass of wine. "Now sit. Eat. The world will still be complicated tomorrow." Over noodles and spring rolls, Olivia finally let the story spill out. The anniversary surprise, the hotel lobby, the other woman, the mysterious client meetings that now made perfect sense, the late nights at work that probably weren't at work at all. "I just keep wondering how long," Olivia said, staring into her wine glass. "How many months or years has he been lying to my face? Was anything real?" Nadine reached across the table, squeezing her hand. "What he did was about him, not you. Remember that." After Nadine left, Olivia opened the divorce papers. The legal language transformed her marriage into clinical terms. Dissolution, division of assets, and no-fault filing. 7 years reduced to checkboxes and signature lines. Her phone buzzed again. "James, I'm coming over. We need to talk face to face." The panic rose instantly. She wasn't ready. "Not yet, no. My lawyer will contact you tomorrow. Please respect that." 3 dots appeared as he typed, disappeared, then reappeared. "I never meant to hurt you. I still love you." Olivia turned off her phone completely, set it face down on the counter, and returned to the divorce papers. With steady hands, she signed her name on every marked line, sealing the end of her marriage with blue ink and absolute certainty. The next morning, Olivia returned to the office, head held high despite the whispers that followed her through the hallways. News traveled fast in marketing circles, especially when James had apparently been telling colleagues his own version of events. "Olivia, do you have a minute?" Her boss, Theodore, beckoned her into his office. "If this is about my work arrangement," she began. "It's about the Hartman campaign," he interrupted. "We need someone to lead it, and frankly, I think you could use the distraction of a major project right now." The Hartman account was Pinnacle's biggest client, a national retail chain rebranding after a merger. It was the kind of career-making opportunity Olivia had been working toward for years. "Why me?" she asked, suspicious of the timing. Theodore leaned back in his chair. "Because you're the best writer on the team, and because you understand what it means to rebuild after things fall apart." His expression softened. "The personal stuff, that's your business. But I know talent when I see it." Driving home that evening, Olivia took a different route, deliberately avoiding the streets that might trigger memories. At a stoplight, she caught her reflection in the rearview mirror and hardly recognized herself. The shadows under her eyes, the tension in her jaw. But there was something else there, too. A steeliness that hadn't existed before. The woman in the mirror had survived the unthinkable and was still standing, still breathing, still moving forward. When she reached her apartment building, she noticed a maintenance truck parked outside and a handwritten note taped to the lobby door. "Building renovations beginning tomorrow. Pardon our dust." Olivia sighed, adding construction noise to her growing list of challenges. But as she climbed the stairs to her third-floor apartment, she realized that maybe Theodore was right. Maybe rebuilding, whether a brand, an apartment building, or a life shattered by betrayal, was exactly what she understood best right now. She placed her signed divorce papers in an envelope for Diane and finally allowed herself to cry. Not for James, but for the woman she'd been 2 weeks ago, the one who still believed in anniversary surprises and forever promises. That woman was gone now, dissolved like her marriage into something unrecognizable. Tomorrow would bring jackhammers and client meetings, lawyers, and more difficult decisions. But tonight, in the quiet aftermath of her shattered life, Olivia made a silent promise to herself. This wouldn't be the end of her story. Unexpected connections. The incessant drilling started promptly at 8 in the morning, just as the notice had warned. Olivia pressed a pillow over her head, groaning as the vibrations seemed to rattle through her entire body. Working from home today was clearly going to be a challenge. After a futile attempt to drown out the noise with music, she gathered her laptop and notes, heading for the coffee shop down the street. As she locked her door, a man emerged from the apartment across the hall, carrying a toolbox and covered in a fine layer of drywall dust. "Sorry about the racket," he said, offering an apologetic smile. "Building this old sound travels like crazy." Olivia nodded curtly, too caffeine-deprived for pleasantries. "Any idea how long this renovation nightmare will last?" 6 weeks, give or take." He extended a dust-covered hand, then thought better of it and wiped it on his jeans. "I'm Rafael Ortiz, by the way, project manager for the renovation. If you need anything or have complaints, which you probably will, I'm your guy." Something about his frankness made Olivia pause. Most contractors she'd encountered promised minimal disruption and perfect timelines, lies that everyone recognized but pretended to believe. Olivia Mercer. "And I appreciate the honesty. Doesn't make the noise any quieter, but at least you know who to blame." His smile reached his eyes, warm brown eyes that crinkled at the corners. "If you're heading out to work, the owner authorized me to offer affected tenants a discount card for Callahan's coffee." "Least we could do." He handed her a punch card with 10 free drink stamps already marked. "That's unexpectedly thoughtful," Olivia admitted, tucking it into her bag. "My suggestion, actually. My father owns the building. I just manage his renovation projects when I'm not running my architecture firm." Raphael shifted his toolbox. "Anyway, don't let me keep you. Enjoy the quiet while you can." The interaction left Olivia feeling oddly off balance as she settled into a corner table at Callahan's. Raphael wasn't what she expected from a contractor, or from any man. Really, after James, she'd been categorizing all men as potential liars until proven otherwise. The Hartman campaign consumed her morning. By afternoon, Olivia had drafted 2 potential directions for the rebranding and was deep into research when someone set a fresh latte on her table. "Peace offering," Raphael said, gesturing to the chair across from her. "Mind if I join for a minute?" "My crew's on lunch break." Olivia hesitated, then nodded. Something about his straightforward manner disarmed her usual defenses. "How's the work coming?" he asked, nodding toward her laptop. "It's a welcome distraction from—" She stopped herself. "From the construction noise." Raphael studied her for a moment, his expression thoughtful. "From something more than construction noise, I'm guessing." Olivia bristled. "That's presumptuous." "Sorry," he said immediately. "Occupational hazard. I spend my days assessing structural integrity, figuring out what's solid and what's about to collapse." He shrugged. "People aren't that different from buildings sometimes." The observation struck Olivia silent. She'd been feeling exactly that, like a structure with compromised foundations, unsure if she would stand or fall. "My divorce papers were filed yesterday," she said, surprising herself with the disclosure. Raphael nodded, no pity in his expression. "Foundations can be rebuilt. I do it every day." They talked for an hour, about architecture, marketing, and the neighborhood's history. Raphael spoke about buildings with genuine passion, describing the century-old bones of their apartment building with reverence. Not once did he ask about her divorce or offer platitudes about time healing all wounds. When his phone buzzed with a text from his crew, he stood to leave. "If you need a quieter place to work, Unit 5B is vacant and already renovated. I could lend you the key. Professional courtesy." "Professional courtesy?" Olivia raised an eyebrow. Well, that and I feel bad about the drilling, Raphael admitted with a grin. Think about it. Offer stands. Over the next 3 weeks, Olivia found herself accepting Raphael's offer more often than not. The empty apartment became her unofficial office, with Raphael occasionally stopping by to check if she needed anything. Their conversations grew longer, ranging from debates about city architecture to childhood stories. One evening, as Olivia packed up to leave 5B, Raphael appeared in the doorway with takeout bags. "Dinner?" he offered. "I've got way too much food and I thought you might be hungry after working all day." They sat on the floor of the empty apartment, using moving boxes as tables, eating Thai food and talking until midnight. Raphael told her about his divorce 5 years earlier, about rebuilding his life one brick at a time. The hardest part wasn't losing her, he confessed. It was losing the future I thought we'd have. All those plans we made, the house we designed together, the kids we named before they existed. Olivia nodded, understanding completely. "I keep having these moments where I forget. I'll see something James would like or think of telling him a story from work. Then I remember." "Those moments get less frequent," Raphael said gently. "Not gone, just less." As they cleaned up their impromptu dinner, their hands brushed, reaching for the same container. Olivia felt a jolt of something she hadn't experienced in months, possibility. Not romance, not yet, but the foundation of something that might, with care and time, become strong enough to build upon. "Thank you," she said, as they walked back to their respective apartments. "For dinner, for the workspace, for—" She hesitated. "For not trying to fix what isn't broken," Raphael finished. "You're not broken, Olivia. Damaged, maybe. Under renovation, definitely. But not broken." She smiled, her first genuine smile in weeks. "Good night, Raphael. Good night, Olivia. See you when the drilling starts tomorrow." As she closed her apartment door, Olivia realized something important. For the first time since the Grand Meridian, she was looking forward to tomorrow. Rediscovering purpose. "You're kidding me," Nadine exclaimed, staring at Olivia across their lunch table. "The Hartman campaign is going national and you're the lead." "That's incredible." Olivia couldn't suppress her smile. "Theodore called me into his office this morning, said my concept tested off the charts with focus groups." She took a sip of her iced tea, still processing the news herself. "There's more. They want me to present the campaign at the Women in Business Gala next month. The one with all the industry bigwigs?" Nadine whistled low. "That's major exposure. And major anxiety," Olivia admitted. "I haven't done public speaking since college." "You'll be amazing," Nadine assured her, then leaned forward with a mischievous gleam in her eye. "Speaking of amazing, how's the hot architect neighbor?" Olivia felt warmth creep into her cheeks. "Raphael is a friend." "A friend who brings you coffee every morning and texts you architecture trivia?" Nadine arched an eyebrow. "The renovations ended 2 weeks ago and you're still spending time with him." It was true. Even after the construction crews had packed up their tools and the building fell silent again, Raphael had remained a fixture in Olivia's life. They'd fallen into a comfortable routine: morning coffee at Callahan's before work, occasional dinners at the little Italian place around the corner, weekend walks through the historic district where Raphael would point out architectural details most people never noticed. "We understand each other," Olivia said finally. "He doesn't push or expect anything." After James, you deserve someone who sees you clearly," Nadine finished. "And it sounds like Raphael does." Later that afternoon, Olivia's phone buzzed with a text from James. Though the divorce was nearly finalized, he still reached out occasionally with thinly veiled attempts to reconnect. "Heard about your promotion from Greg in accounting. Always knew you were destined for great things. Dinner to celebrate? For old time's sake?" Once those words would have affected her, either pulling her back toward him or triggering fresh anger. Now she felt only a distant sadness for the man who had once been the center of her world, now reduced to an occasional unwelcome text message. "No thank you. Best wishes, Olivia." She set her phone down and returned to her presentation draft for the gala. The theme was transformations, fitting for both the Hartman rebranding and her own life circumstances. That evening, as Olivia struggled with the closing section of her speech, a knock at her door revealed Raphael holding a potted plant. "Housewarming gift," he explained. "I know you've been here for months, but better late than never." Olivia examined the plant, a resilient-looking succulent in a hand-painted ceramic pot. "Did you make this?" "The pot, yes. Ceramics is my stress relief." Raphael shrugged, suddenly looking slightly embarrassed. The plant is practically indestructible, which seemed appropriate for someone rebuilding. The thoughtfulness of the gesture touched her deeply. "It's perfect." "Thank you." Raphael glanced at the papers spread across her coffee table. "Working on something important?" "My presentation for the Women in Business Gala." "I'm stuck on the ending, may I?" he asked, gesturing to the draft. When Olivia nodded, he sat beside her, reading through her notes. "This is powerful stuff. The campaign concept really resonates. But the closing falls flat," Olivia sighed. "I can't find the right words." Raphael considered for a moment. "What if you make it personal? Not about the brand, but about what transformation means to you." "That's actually brilliant," Olivia murmured, scribbling notes. "Connecting my personal experience to the brand's journey." They worked together for hours, refining ideas and practicing delivery. When Olivia finally nailed the closing, Raphael applauded enthusiastically. "You're going to captivate that entire room," he said, his admiration evident. In the comfortable silence that followed, Olivia realized how naturally they had fallen into collaboration, supporting each other's strengths, compensating for weaknesses. It was nothing like her relationship with James, built on dependency and, ultimately, deception. "The gala is next Friday," she said tentatively. "Would you like to come? As my plus one?" The question hung between them, more significant than a simple invitation. Raphael's smile was warm but careful. "Are you sure? That's a big step." "I'm not sure about many things these days," Olivia admitted. "But I'm sure about this, about us exploring whatever this is becoming." He reached for her hand, his touch gentle. "Then yes, I'd be honored to be your plus one." The week before the gala passed in a whirlwind of preparations. Olivia polished her presentation until every word felt authentic, every transition smooth. She found a midnight blue gown that made her feel powerful, and purchased a new necklace to replace the one James had given her, a symbol of her self-sufficiency. The night before the event, she received an email that made her blood run cold. James had RSVP'd as the plus one of Veronica Hartman, daughter of the Hartman CEO and the copper-haired woman from the hotel lobby. The coincidence was too cruel to be believed. The very campaign that had helped Olivia rebuild her professional confidence would now force her to face both betrayers simultaneously. In front of the entire industry, panicked, she called Raphael. "I can't do this," she blurted when he answered. "James will be there with her." Raphael listened as she explained, then said simply, "What would you tell a friend in this situation?" The question stopped Olivia's spiral. What would she tell Nadine or any other friend? "I'd tell her that she's worked too hard to let someone else's actions diminish her moment." "Exactly," Raphael said softly. "This is your moment, Olivia. You've earned it through talent and perseverance. Don't give them the power to take that away." His quiet confidence steadied her. This presentation wasn't just about a rebranding campaign anymore. It was about reclaiming her narrative, about transformation in its truest form. "You're right," she said finally. "I'm not hiding anymore." "That's my girl," Raphael replied, the phrase slipping out naturally. Neither acknowledged it, but Olivia felt its impact. The simple affirmation that she belonged, not as someone's wife or victim, but as herself. When she hung up, Olivia opened her laptop and made one final edit to her presentation, adding a personal note about rebuilding after destruction, about finding beauty in the process of becoming something new. Tomorrow would bring a confrontation she'd never expected. But for the first time, Olivia felt ready to face whatever came next. Not alone, but with someone who saw her clearly standing by her side. Full circle. The Westbrook Hotel ballroom glittered with chandeliers and possibility. Olivia stood backstage, clutching her note cards as the event coordinator adjusted her microphone. Through the curtain, she could glimpse tables of industry leaders, potential clients, and competitors, all gathered to celebrate women's achievements in business. "You're on in 5 minutes. Ms. Mercer," the coordinator informed her. Olivia nodded, trying to steady her breathing. Somewhere in that audience sat James and Veronica Hartman. Somewhere else waited Raphael, who had texted earlier that he was running late but promised to arrive before her presentation. "Olivia, A familiar voice made her turn. Theodore approached, looking uncharacteristically nervous. "There's something you should know before you go out there." "James is—" "I know," Olivia interrupted. "He's Veronica Hartman's +1. I saw the guest list." Theodore blinked in surprise. "And you're still okay with presenting?" "More than okay," Olivia assured him. "This campaign is the best work I've ever done. I won't let personal history undermine that." Pride replaced concern in Theodore's expression. "I always knew you were remarkable, but these past few months you've exceeded everyone's expectations, including my own." He squeezed her shoulder encouragingly. "Show them what transformation really means." As Theodore left, Olivia's phone buzzed with a text from Raphael. "Just arrived. You're going to be brilliant. Look for me in the back. I'll be the one beaming with pride." The simple message calmed her racing heart. She wasn't the same woman who had walked into the Grand Meridian with anniversary flowers and naive expectations. That woman had been defined by her relationship to James. This woman, the one about to take the stage, was defined by her own strength, talent, and choices. "Ladies and gentlemen," the MC announced, "please welcome Olivia Mercer, Senior Marketing Director at Pinnacle Media, presenting the Hartman Retail Transformation Campaign." Applause carried Olivia onto the stage. Under the bright lights, the audience appeared as shadowy figures impossible to distinguish individually. A blessing, perhaps. She couldn't see James or Veronica, couldn't be distracted by their presence. "Transformation," Olivia began, her voice steady and clear, "is rarely a choice we make willingly. Often it's thrust upon us when what we thought was solid crumbles beneath our feet." The room grew quiet, attendees leaning forward in their seats. When Hartman Retail approached Pinnacle about rebranding after their merger, they were facing an identity crisis. Who were they now? What remained of their original foundation? What needed to be discarded and what preserved? Olivia advanced through her presentation with growing confidence, outlining the campaign strategy that had tested so successfully. As she neared the end, she allowed herself to scan the audience. In the back, just as promised, stood Raphael, his warm eyes fixed on her with unmistakable admiration. And there, at a front table, sat James and Veronica, their expressions a study in contrasts. Veronica smiling professionally, James looking stunned, as though seeing Olivia for the first time. "The most powerful transformations," Olivia continued, holding Raphael's gaze across the room, "aren't about becoming someone new. They're about becoming more authentically ourselves, about building upon foundations that remain true even when everything else has changed." She clicked to the final slide, the Hartman campaign tagline, superimposed over before and after images of renovated storefronts. "Rebuild, reclaim, reimagine. Transformation isn't the end of a story," Olivia concluded. "It's the beginning of a better one. Thank you." The applause was immediate and thunderous. People rose to their feet, Theodore among them, beaming with approval. Even Veronica Hartman stood, clapping enthusiastically while James remained seated, his expression unreadable. After fielding congratulations and answering questions from potential clients, Olivia finally broke away from the crowd. She needed air, space to process the emotional complexity of the evening. In a quiet alcove off the main ballroom, she leaned against the wall and closed her eyes, exhaling slowly. "You were magnificent." Olivia opened her eyes to find James standing before her, looking both familiar and foreign in his tailored suit. "Thank you," she replied, surprised by her own composure. "I've been trying to apologize for months," he said, his voice low. "What I did, it doesn't matter anymore," Olivia interrupted gently. "Not because it wasn't wrong, but because it no longer defines me." James studied her face. "You've changed." "Not changed," she corrected. "Transformed. There's a difference, Olivia." James began, but stopped as Raphael approached, carrying 2 champagne flutes. "Sorry to interrupt," Raphael said, though his expression suggested he wasn't sorry at all. "Thought you might want to celebrate." He handed Olivia a glass, then extended his hand to James. "Raphael Ortiz." James shook it automatically, glancing between them with dawning comprehension. "James Mercer, Olivia's husband." "Ex-husband," Olivia corrected softly. An awkward silence fell until Veronica appeared, linking her arm through James's. "There you are. Dad's looking for us. He wants to discuss the campaign." She smiled at Olivia, seemingly oblivious to the tension. Your presentation was incredible. I told Daddy you were the perfect choice. As they walked away, Olivia felt a strange sense of closure. The betrayal that had shattered her world 6 months ago now seemed distant, a catalyst rather than a defining moment. You okay? Raphael asked, his hand finding hers. Actually, yes, Olivia realized, squeezing his fingers. Better than okay. Later, as they stood on the hotel terrace overlooking the city lights, Raphael handed Olivia a small wrapped package. What's this? She asked, surprised. Open it. Inside was a miniature ceramic replica of her apartment building, perfectly detailed right down to her third-floor window, where a tiny succulent plant was visible through the glass. You once told me that you weren't sure where home was anymore, Raphael explained. I wanted to remind you that home isn't just a place, it's wherever you choose to plant roots and grow. Olivia traced the delicate craftsmanship with her fingertip, emotion welling in her throat. 6 months ago, she had walked into a hotel with flowers and expectations, only to have her world shattered. Tonight, she stood in another hotel, holding a different kind of gift. One that represented not what someone else could give her, but what she had built for herself. I used to think that loving someone meant supporting them through anything, she said quietly. What I've learned is that true support isn't about enduring betrayal or compromising yourself. It's about seeing each other clearly and helping each other become stronger. Raphael nodded, understanding in his eyes. Foundations matter. You can't build something lasting on broken trust. But you can build something new on honest ground, Olivia replied, setting the ceramic building on the terrace ledge to free her hands. When she reached for him, pulling him close for their first kiss, Olivia felt the final pieces of her transformation lock into place. The kiss wasn't desperate or needy. It was a beginning, not an ending. A conscious choice rather than a reaction. Below them, the city continued its eternal cycle of demolition and reconstruction, old structures giving way to new possibilities. And in that moment of connection, surrounded by the gentle hum of a world constantly rebuilding itself, Olivia understood that some things must break so that stronger things can rise in their place. She had come full circle, not back to where she started, but to a higher point on the spiral, able to see both where she had been and where she might go next. The view, she decided as Raphael's arms enveloped her under the star-filled sky, was worth every painful step of the journey.